always try to represent yourself because initially it becomes your look, gradually it becomes your habit, and finally it becomes your personality. Good morning, student. Welcome to a very fine morning. Hope so all are safe and healthy. So today we'll be starting up with Geography Chapter 6, that is Properties of Seawater. So in this video we'll be seeing about introduction part of Properties of Seawater. We'll be seeing some properties of seawater in this video. The more we come out and do good to others, the more our heart will be purified and God will be in them. Good morning, students. Welcome to today's next video. So in the last video, we have discussed about the introduction part of properties of seawater and general characteristics of seawater. In this video, children, we'll be dealing with properties of seawater. In that, we'll be seeing temperature, salinity, and density. Now, let's have some information on temperature. The ocean of the world are heated at the surface by the sun, and this heating is uneven for many reasons. The Earth's axial rotation, revolution about the sun, and tilt all play a role, as do the wind-driven ocean surface currents. The first animation in this group shows the long-term average sea surface temperature, with the red and yellow depicting warmer water currents and blue depicting colder water. So children, this was the information about the temperature, water temperature we can say. Now let's discuss about the salinity, sea surface salinity. The heat of the sun also forces evaporation at the ocean's surface, which put water vapors into atmosphere but leaves minerals and salt behind, keeping the ocean salty. The salinity of the ocean also varies from place to place because evaporation varies based on sea surface temperature and wind, rivers, rainstorms, fresh water in the ocean, and melting or freezing ice affect the salinity of polar water. So, children, this was about the salinity. Now, let's see about the density over here. The average density of sea surface water can be calculated from the average sea surface temperature and salinity using the state equation for seawater. The third animation shows the long-term average sea surface density, with light blue regions having least density and dark blue regions having greatest density. The sea surface density variation are actually very small, less than 3% overall, but the variation is very important. So children, this was about the density. So in this video, we have discussed about the properties of sea waters, temperature, salinity, and density. In the next video, children, we'll be dealing with temperature. In that, we'll be seeing about surface temperature of seawater and temperature of sea as per the depth of sea. So, children, continue with your eye exercise before starting up with the next video. Have a good day, children. The greatest truths are the simplest things in the world, simple as your own existence. Good morning, student. Welcome to a very fine morning. Hope so all are safe and healthy. So, we have already started up with Geography Chapter 6, that is Properties of Seawater. In the previous video, children, we have discussed about properties of seawater. In that, we have seen about temperature, salinity, and density. So, in this video, we'll be dealing with temperature in detail. In that, we are going to see about the surface temperature of seawater and temperature of sea as per the depth of the sea. So children, let's have some information on temperature. Temperature is a major property of the seawater. The surface temperature of seawater is not uniform everywhere. This is dependent on different factors. Let's first see about the surface temperature of seawater. It is not uniform everywhere. It changes with latitudes. It decreases from equatorial areas towards the pole. It is about 25 degrees Celsius near equator, about 16 degrees Celsius in the mid-latitudinal and 2 degree near poles. Location of the sea, ocean currents, cyclones, rainfall, sea waves, salinity, pollution, convectional movements of seawater, seasons, etc. are the factors that influence the surface temperature of the sea. Now children, let's see about the temperature of sea as per the depth of sea. It decreases with increasing depth. However, beyond a certain depth, temperature does not change much. Temperature of the seawater changes rapidly with depth near equatorial areas, but such areas are moderate in mid-latitudinal regions. The difference in temperature with depth in lesser in polar region. Most of the sun rays because radiate back from surface of sea and some of them penetrate to certain depth in water. The intensity of such sun rays decreases. Hence, after a certain depth, the temperature of the seawater remains same everywhere. After 2000 meter depth, the temperature of the seawater remains uniform at 4 degrees Celsius from the equatorial region to the polar areas. Water at greater depth does not freeze. The temperature of an open sea is always less than those of landlocked seas. So children, in this video, we have discussed about surface temperature of seawater and temperature of sea as per the depth of sea. In the next video, children, we'll be dealing with salinity. Children, continue with your eye exercise before starting up with the next video. The whole life is a succession of dreams. My ambition is to be a conscious dreamer, that is all. Good morning, students. Welcome to today's next video. In the last video, we have discussed about temperature in detail. In that, we have seen about surface temperature of seawater and temperature of sea as per the depth. In this video, children, we'll be dealing with salinity in detail. Deposition of minerals and salts has made seawater salty. Factors like temperature, evaporation, supply of fresh water, landlocked or open nature of sea decide salinity of seawater. The buoyancy of seawater increases due to salinity. This is useful for water transportation as large and heavy ships easily float on such salty water. Salt is obtained from salt pans. Salt is used in food as well as for making various chemicals and medicines. Besides, salt is also used to preserve food for longer periods. It is also used in ice factories. Distribution of salinity of seawater. Equatorial regions between 5 degrees north and 5 degrees south on one hand has cloudy sky longer periods and receive convocational rainfall every day. Large rivers like Amazon and Congo also meet the sea in equatorial region and supply abundant fresh water. On the other hand, this region has higher temperature and more rate of evaporation. Therefore, sea in this area has a moderate to high salinity. Tropical regions in general has a higher temperature and higher rate of evaporation, and therefore sea in tropical areas has a moderate salinity. Mid-latitudinal zones between 25 degree and 35 degree in both the hemisphere has higher salinity. Temperature region have less salinity. Landlocked seas have more salinity than open seas. The Dead Sea has a salinity of 332%. Then we see salinity of Arabian Sea is more than the Bay of Bengal. So children, this was about the salinity in detail. So in this video we have seen about the salinity of the seawater. In the next video, we'll be dealing with the experiments of salinity which is given in the textbook. Children, continue with your eye exercise before starting up with the next video. What is the reason for every misunderstanding? According to Vivekanand, the reason is we see the people as we are, but not as they are. Good morning, student. Welcome to a very fine morning. Hope so. All are safe and healthy. So, we have already started up with Geography Chapter 6, that is Properties of Seawater. In the last video, we have already discussed about the salinity in detail. In this video, children will be dealing with Salinity Experiments, which are given in the textbook, page number 51 and 52. Take 1.5 liter of water in a big container. Now add 100 grams of salt and stir it. Now children, take 3 containers of same size. To identify, put 3 dots of different colors on them. Put the water containing salt equally in 3 containers. Make sure the containers are half empty after filling the water. Taste the water out of 3 containers. Keep one in the sun outside. Cover it with meshed lid. Keep the remaining two in the classroom, or you can just do this experiment at your home. So you can keep it inside the home, children. Put half a glass of fresh water daily in one of the container in your house. After 3-4 days, bring all the containers together at one place. Observe the level of water in all three containers. Taste the water in all three containers. Experience the difference in the taste. Write about all this taste in one line each. Now, children, you may have realized that because of the sun's heat, evaporation happens at a faster rate. Evaporated water turns into water vapors and reduces in quantity, but amount of salt remains same in the remaining water, and therefore salinity of water increases. In the sea, where the rate of evaporation is high, then the supply of fresh water salinity is high. In the sea, where the supply of fresh water exceeds the rate of evaporation and salinity is low. Salinity is not affected much in sea, where both supply of fresh water and evaporation of water is low. So children, in this video we have discussed about the experiment of salinity. So children, you can do this experiment at your homes and try this particular concept at your home. So we'll come to know about the salinity more by doing the practical work. In the next video, children, we'll be dealing with the density as properties of seawater. So continue with your eye exercise before starting up with the next video. Have a good day, children. Perfection does not come from belief or faith. Talk does not count for anything. Parrots can do that. Perfection comes through selfless work. Good morning, student. Welcome to today's next video. We have already started up with Geography Chapter 6, that is Properties of Seawater. So in the last video, children, we have discussed about the experiments of salinity by taking salt water in 3 different containers. In this video, we'll be dealing with density as property of seawater. Temperature and salinity of seawater determine its density. Temperature and density are inversely proportionate. That is, temperature is less, then the density of water is more. Same way, inversely, it is also proportionate, children. If salinity of seawater is less, then the density of seawater is also. However, despite less salinity, the density is more if the temperature of seawater is less. Effects of temperature and salinity on density of seawater is seen up to 500 meters depth. However, at the 1000-meter depth, factors like temperature, salinity, and density of seawater do not change. The ocean currents are generated due to difference in properties like temperature, salinity, and density of seawater. The distribution of temperature gets controlled due to ocean currents. Regional climate of the earth also gets affected by ocean currents. The ocean currents are generated because of difference in properties of seawater. They act as temperature controllers at the global level. The distribution of temperature gets controlled due to ocean currents. Thus, the climate of Earth gets affected by the ocean currents. So children, this was about the density as property of seawater. So in this video, we have discussed about the density as the property of seawater. In the next video, children, we'll be dealing with Dead Sea. So continue with your eye exercise before starting up with the next video. Have a good day, children. Take care. Every individual is a center for manifestation of certain force. This force has been stored up as the resultant of our previous work, and each one of us is born with this force at our back. Good morning, student. Welcome to today's fine morning. Hope so. All are safe and healthy. Now, children, we are towards the end of Geography Chapter 6, that is, Properties of Sea Water. Children, in the last video, we have discussed in detail about the density. In this video, we'll be dealing with the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea is a lake between West Bank and Jordan. It is 418 meters below sea level. It is the lowest point on the surface of the earth. The Dead Sea is almost 9 times as salty as the ocean. Let's see how would we describe the Dead Sea. The sea is called dead because its high salinity prevents macroscopic aquatic organisms such as fish and aquatic plants from living in it, though quantities of bacteria and microbial fungi are present. In times of flood, the salt content of Dead Sea can drop from its usual, that is 35% to 30% or lower. Dead Sea. The name of the sea itself gives an idea of the conditions there. The sea lying on the border of Israel and Jordan has a salinity of 332%. The average salinity of ocean is 35%. Jordan is the only large river meeting this sea. Low rainfall, low supply of fresh water, and high evaporation are the reasons of high salinity. There is no life here except few unicellular organisms. The fish coming from the river Jordan die as soon as they come here because of high salinity. Saline pillars have developed. Some of them come outside on the surface. The density of water is also high because of higher salinity. Therefore, one can never drown in the sea. We can easily float when we go in the seawater. Another characteristic of the Dead Sea is that the land here is below the mean sea level. It is one of the places having lowest elevation on the earth. In areas, the altitude is minus 400 meters. So children, in the last video we have discussed about density, and in this video we have seen about the Dead Sea. In the next coming video, children, we'll be seeing about the landlocked sea. So children, continue with your eye exercise before starting up with the next video. Be not afraid of anything. You will do marvelous work. It is fearlessness that brings heaven even in a moment. Good morning, student. Welcome to a very fine morning. Hope so. All are safe and healthy. Today, we are towards the end of Geography Chapter 6, that is, the properties of sea water. In the last video, children, we have discussed about the Dead Sea. In this video, we'll be dealing with landlocked sea. A country is landlocked if it has no access to any ocean or sea. A sea is also landlocked if does not have access to the ocean. This is also called endorheic basin. As an example, the Caspian Sea is a landlocked sea. Let us see exactly what is landlocked sea. Having no direct access to the sea. When there is no direct access to the sea, we call it as a landlocked country. And when it comes to the landlocked sea, when there is no access of land, we call it as a landlocked sea. Now, children, in 1990, there were only 30 landlocked countries in the world. The breakup of Yugoslavia and the dissolution of Soviet Union and Czechoslovakia and the independence reference of and South Sudan have created 15 new landlocked countries and 4 partially recognized landlocked states. Generally, being landlocked creates some political and economic handicaps that having access to international waters would avoid. The economic disadvantage of being landlocked can be elevated and aggravated depending on degrees of development, surrounding trade routes and freedom of trade. There can be language barriers and other considerations. So, children, in this video, we have discussed about the landlocked seas. Now, today we are towards the end of Geography Chapter 6, that is Properties of Seawater. In the next lecture, children will continue with the coming chapter of Geography. Continue with your eye exercise before starting up with the next video. Have a good day, children. Take care.